Hi, Kwonyin.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hey, so today we have a good topic we wanted to discuss openly and organically, which was the topic on the dangers of the one-sided perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we'll
pretty much
see
in
where this,
every relationship
yeah,
and conversation. Yeah.
yeah, and we'll see where this conversation flows.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, the dangers of the one-sided perspective. What are some awareness that you have that you would like to share about it?
Mm-hmm. How the one side, well, first and foremost, I think each side always is that perspective because in its own reality, it is the best good thing that
Mm-hmm.
they are aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And so each side is holding that
Mm-hmm.
for themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
each side thinks this is the best good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, of course, then when each side is coming from that place, or maybe one side is more neutral. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if any side thinks, okay, this is the best good thing, there is the danger of right bulldozing the other
Mm-hmm.
side.
Yeah. Not seeing each other.
And that is something to be aware of in these different interactions. Like,
Before
am
we
I
go,
using what I know, what I think is good,
yeah.
in a violent way where I'm not receptive to the other perspective
Yeah.
at all? And so, oh, I think there's also another important question to ask is there's this like I feel like a deep sense of in what you think is good,
Yeah.
if it's very fixed in that,
Mm-hmm.
it almost feels like the other side even stating what their own perspective is could feel like a threat.
Yeah.
And so it almost would feel like even a betrayal to even consider that there's another way.
Yeah. Yeah. But before
Um,
we go further,
yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk about that because I feel like you just dove in deeper to that perspective
Mhm.
of needing to be on that one side. And the question is, why then? Why are you so needing to be on that one-sided perspective in that moment? Like, what is the root of like holding on to that and not having space in wanting to understand the other's perspective or the opposite's perspective?
Mhm. So why?
And
Because this
usually, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's related to a very root feeling of this is what gives me my sense of reality
Mhm.
and security and safety
Yeah.
in what makes me,
Mhm.
yeah, feel safe and secure in the
Yeah.
world. This.
And it's obviously also on to add on to that is fear. They're
Mhm.
only holding on to it so tightly with that one-sided perspective because they're vulnerable. Like root, if you go deeper, is this fear of like not wanting to be the opposite. Because for
Mm.
some reason, at some point in their life, they have and they got a taste of that feeling state in the opposite. And sometimes
Mhm.
the conscious person is they either remember that or they forget it. But all they
Mm.
know is there's a really good reason why you're holding on to that. And usually,
Mm.
if you go deeper, it's some kind of fear that's not allowing you to change, but to stay there because this is the only safest perspective.
Mhm. So then, okay, so then we can then take ourselves deeper into like that fear.
Yeah.
The fear, because this is a very,
Mhm.
it's like you're dealing with bombs.
Yeah.
You're
But
like
then
very sensitive fear.
the funny thing is,
Yeah.
if
Uh-huh.
one perspective on that side is holding on to that belief so strongly because it's the safest, and to see it any other way, you would that person would be diving into the fear, which they don't want to like come across for various reasons, their own personal reasons. But then the opposite that is triggering that person, and this opposite triggering this person, they're both holding on to the opposites because to each individual, that opposite perspective is the safest perspective for them,
Mhm.
which in a positive way, if you look at it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. If you found positivity there and you found positivity there, and they're the opposites,
Mhm.
then that is also in a positive way a validation. Like, there is positivity in the opposite. Look,
Yeah.
this person is totally living it
Right.
opposite of you. Yeah.
But I think when there's fixed fear, no, you do not have space to see any positive
Yeah.
in the
Uh-huh.
opposite part.
Uh-huh.
Because reason why you're clinging on to what you think is safe is because um you like you were the opposite side and somehow something went wrong there. Or
Yeah.
that's why you disowned the opposite side
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
clung to what now you know as the thing that's right and good
Uh-huh.
and safe.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
it's true because you and I both went there. Every person has had that lens of that one-sided perspective as being better or good and safer. That like when you really have chosen to just see it from that perspective and that perspective only, it's hard to see the like blind spot, the negative side to just only seeing it from that perspective.
Mhm.
It's so hard because all you see is like, nope, nope, this is good, this is safe. So it's really, yeah, it is hard to break it down to say, no, it's not 100% positive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 100% good and there's 100% bad in
Yeah.
the opposite thing.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the fear is there that's keeping you in that
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. But isn't it, but it's also funny because you know how like the opposite, you get to see like, oh wait, if that person feels safe over there and this person feels safe over there, yeah, there is must be something safer and positive about that too, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But then at the same time, each other that's triggering each other is showing the negative side of that belief. Like this person can see it because this person is so like just
Oh, right.
only seeing from this lens.
Uh-huh.
But
And
this
you see
part
all
is
the negativity of being like that.
uh-huh. And this person is outside of that lens, can
Mhm.
clearly see the negativity.
Yeah.
And this person is out of that lens, could clearly see the negativity of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like your opposing side
Uh,
has a piece of truth about you that's your
yeah.
blind spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're so like, no, I'm 100% good.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And but and then if you go down, so it's like, okay, so this person was but let's just say that person is so triggered. And it's like, no, that's not fucking me. No, I'm gonna move on, right?
Mhm.
And then experiences it with another person, right? And now it's like this perspective, ah, why is everyone like this? I guess I'm the only one that, sees more clearly, and it may take that route of like disowning it, denying it, not wanting to see it. And again, because of free will, you could choose to see it now, you could choose to see it later, but it's always going to reflect to you through various people, right? So you
Yeah.
always have the opportunity to be like, oh, and catch it. Oh, and catch it. But what if, um, oh, where was I going with this? I had the aha.
Uh, you have the free will to always catch it because you'll just keep seeing that what you're denying keep popping up?
Yeah. But it was about the opposites of, oh, like the how this all unfolds and how it plays out in real life is, yeah, keep denying it, right?
Mhm,
That means on a oneness level, like everything is one,
mhm,
like that concept is also true too. Everything is one, right? I am you, you are me. From that perspective, like that perspective shows you and is a mirror to you, like disowning that, not wanting to see that and say, fuck that. No, that's not me, right?
mhm.
Then at the same time, in your subconscious part of you, which is that, is basically you're treating that part that way. Like, fuck that. I'm not gonna see that about me. I'm gonna disown that part of me. Like, fuck you. And like, and that's how like
That's
you start
exactly how
abusing
you're
yourself.
treating yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the part of you that's not not having the maybe the like to the less confident part of you. Because when you're
Uh-huh.
100% thinking this is the good and right
Hmm.
way,
That's
you're
the dominant
also
energy.
that's the dominant energy is not
Yeah.
having space for other parts of you that are like, well,
Yeah.
or just different than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you're internally, you're bulldozing the part that you bulldoze in other people. Now you're going to feel your own bulldozed, like sensitive, hurt part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you can
Hmm.
choose, it'll come up.
Yeah. So it makes sense where, like as kids, if we are so used to suppressing that, and as adults, that means we've been suppressing that emotional pain for
Yeah.
that many amount of years, which meant that it was sitting there, like that energy was sitting there in ailment, infected. It was sitting there in that state, which basically forms into the physical state. So, you know how like the physical ailment that you have is connected to your unresolved emotional state. A part of that is, it's so true.
Yeah. We're a
Yeah.
manifestation of like everything comes from first the non material,
Mhm,
right? The non physical becomes physical.
mhm. Because, and to make an example of that, it's like you tell yourself, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself, right? Tell yourself repeatedly over and over and over again, you'll end up hating yourself. So in the physical, would you actually be good to yourself? No, you wouldn't.
You would look like someone who hates themselves.
Mhm. And even if that became subconscious,
Mhm.
right? That I hate myself, I hate myself. In the physical, you wouldn't really know how to receive for yourself fully. Yeah. Wait, was that a good example? I don't know if that was a good example, but yeah, like it forms in the
Yourself
physical.
in the physical, yeah, you will
Yeah.
also be feeling and looking like you hate yourself.
Yeah. 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 And that could be a match of like, oh, you got burned today. That's a form of like, oh, shoot, you're a match to getting your finger burned today from this pot. And when you look at it, it's like, oh, it's when you look at it, it's like, oh, it's a form of pain to the self. I don't know
Mm.
if that was going too much into, I don't know, but yeah,
Mm.
um,
So
yeah,
what you're saying, yeah, the internal is going to reflect your external.
yeah, that like it'll keep growing and growing to the point where that pain becomes so big, and now someone can't deny it. You get to a point where you can't deny it. You can't deny it, but to feel that thing that was suppressed. Why isn't it working out? Like, what's going on? I don't get it. Yeah. And it becomes this jumble of confusion for the self. Yeah.
Also, it's just a, like when you're thinking And I know this from my own self,
Mm-hmm.
like being caught in the cycle of like, oh my God, I hate myself. I hate myself.
Mm-hmm.
And externally, I think people hate me too,
Mm-hmm.
because I see everyone as me. So I think, oh, I hate me. So why would they like me? They would hate me too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Arby. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, whatever misfortune, it's like, oh, universe hates me.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
happening to me because I'm unwelcome in this world. And
Mm-hmm.
of course,
And the law of mirroring, the law of attraction will mirror that to you.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that's what you believe. Here's a mirror to say, look, see. So everything
Mhm,
in the physical is a message, a sign, and a clue that you can
mhm,
receive and unravel and resolve if you do focus on that thing you want to see why this is in front of you. What does it have to say about whatever it is to you,
mhm.
good or bad? Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But I just want to say, but of course, that happening and you things that seem like they happen to you, that's the moment where you can wake up from it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like wake
When you're
up to
triggered by it.
how am I talking to myself and how am I
Mm-hmm.
like what's my perspective of what I think, like, yeah, how am I treating myself? How am I talking to myself? I feel
Yeah.
like that's the opening to start to
Mm-hmm.
like unravel what your beliefs are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even
Oh,
those things happening, it's happening to wake you up so that you can rewrite your internal scripts, you know.
mm-hmm.
Those bad things aren't just like it's like, the whole thing of you have the power to become aware.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And then um the other thing to add on to that, the dangers of the one-sided perspective
Hmm.
could be like, yeah, you're on the opposite end right now, right? You only see that you're in this perspective, but the blind spot could also be you have no idea you're actually the opposite too. You're exuding that, but because you're so much in denial about it in other people that you don't even see that you're even doing that yourself, how you have become the other person.
Hmm.
And in this case, I guess we can like use that, and a good example would be the self, right? Taking the perspective of only me, just myself, and then the perspective and this opposite perspective which takes on everybody else but me. I'm
Hmm.
there for everybody else but me. And so
Mm.
how do these two become each other blindsidedly? Does that make sense?
Mm.
Should we go there and see how we can unravel that?
Yeah, okay, so you're going into the no self.
Yeah, so let's use an example. Like one
And so,
perspective grew up in an environment where their family is all about self and only the self.
mhm,
And then this opposite grew up in an environment where it was all about the family or all about other people and but no self.
mhm.
Yeah.
Like an Asian family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So these
Yeah.
polarized
Uh-huh.
perspectives. Yeah.
Where like the dangers of the one-sided perspectives of these two is like, oh, but then you don't see that you actually end up subconsciously being the opposite of each other. How do you get to
Mhm.
that point? And you don't even
Yeah,
recognize it.
yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're watching this today and you say, no, that's not me. I don't have that in me, let's say. But
Mhm,
then you'll see, no, the opposites are in everybody, you know?
mhm,
We consciously and subconsciously go in and out of polarities all the time
Yeah, and
if you're not
depending
aware.
on different subjects, circumstances, different people, you can totally take on the
Yeah.
opposite polarity,
Oh, I
you know?
love that you said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because we're
Like,
not like that in all areas, like
uh-huh.
work, relationship, food, TV show,
Yeah.
whatever, friends or family, boyfriend or girlfriend. It's just,
Like there were like past relationships where I noticed this flipping of polarity.
mhm,
Like in one relationship, my boyfriend is like feeling really controlling, possessive, and jealous.
mhm,
And I really didn't like that,
mhm.
it was very stressful. And then in the next relationship, I'm the one that was feeling insecure and jealous,
Yeah.
possessive, and like, but repressing that. But then
Yeah.
and then in the it's just like,
Mhm,
I thought, oh, it's so funny. I have become what I so hate.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, so that one-sided perspective can do that subconsciously without even realizing that you are.
And then I repressed it so hard when I
Yeah.
was the bad one,
Yeah.
because I knew how much, of course, I repressed it because I was so judgmental
Mhm.
of the person who was like that to me,
Mhm.
that I internally did the same to me. And I thought, wow, I'm so terrible.
Yeah.
And I can't let anyone know about this.
Yeah. Oh, oh, I love that you said that because I think we want everyone to know, like, hey, you're not alone in this. It's really hard to own that part
Um,
where that's me. I hate that. And now I see that in me. It is. It's like it's really hard to want to see that. So it is normal when someone says that's not me and gets all defensive, you know?
yeah.
And it does make sense when Teal said, like, when you start doing this work and then you go to your parents to confront, but the likelihood of like how that can backfire is your parents get all defensive because and then not give you the truth because their defenses are more dominant in thinking, are you telling me I was a bad parent? You're making me
Mhm.
feel like I was a bad parent to you and I didn't love you and that's not the case. It's not. But or maybe in some cases it is. I don't know, but like um it's that like when someone's calling you out, so if you are calling one of your parts out that you really don't like, it's hard to say, oh, that is me, and own it and take responsibility for it. So we're not even trying to say like you should get there. It's like, no, no, we have so much empathy for even that part that's even being defensive about it. Because it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard when what you feel, is good and right and safe
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
feels like someone's threatening that with like, with another perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, so then I kind of want to add on to that then. Like, so how would you make that part feel safer in wanting to see something that is of truth to that person, um, but that truth is painful to see, or to a part of you, or yeah, or in somebody else.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what is that place of like resistance to taking in another option.
Yeah.
Um, what is that? Because
The
it's
answer, yeah,
uh-huh. Yeah, do you want to
like
go ahead?
because it goes back to the beginning of it, no? Of the only reason why these two opposites are holding on to dear life of that one perspective is because they feel safe in it. They see it
Mhm,
as good.
mhm.
So then it's for the opposite to really be wanting to see how that is. How is it?
Oh, how is it safe to also be the opposite too?
Yeah, like making that part feel safe to reveal
Yeah.
because it only had that perspective because it feels the safest to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you exude safety for them to
Uh-huh.
speak their truth of their
Yeah.
perspective,
Yeah.
yeah, the walls come down when you
Right.
do feel safe.
Because the common denominator is that we, both sides,
Mhm,
want and need safety.
mhm,
And they just came from different evolutionary paths or something
mhm,
to arrive at their version of safety.
mhm.
But they have both of that in common.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I just felt like there's something about we need to be operating from how can I help my opposite perspective? We both want safety.
mhm.
We have to come to agreement that we are the same in that way.
Yeah. So let's take you and I, for example. Let's say we're in a opposite perspective,
Mhm.
but with us, we've gotten to that place where even if we were in a disagreement about something,
Mhm.
we already create a foundation of like, oh, but I want to understand your perspective. And
Mhm.
you had that same way with me.
Mhm.
And so even though there's like a big disagreement, let's say, the mutual agreement is I want to understand. So it's almost like I give you the safety to express yourself fully while I really listen. And
Mhm.
then you give me the safety to express myself to really listen.
Mhm.
And then have an aha of each other, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But then I like before we got to really know each other,
Mhm.
we had to work on that. Like, oh, you probably thought, oh, is Sophia safe enough to do that with? And I
Mhm.
did think like, oh, is Kwonyin safe enough to do that with?
Mhm.
So at first it was kind of scary to do it with each
Mhm.
other, but we both wanted it so much that we went for it with each other as friends. And then every step that we took into integrating those disagreements or whatever different perspective of that one-sided perspective of each other, we just kept mending it and mending it and mending it and mending it to the point where now when we do have a disagreement, that's not the point. We already know, like, oh, that disagreement is just trying to help us. Like, I know we're going to get closer because you're going to help me see the positivity, and I'm going to help you see the positivity of it. And then we just grow
Mhm. Right.
stronger in our relationship.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Now that's so
Yeah. Oh, wait,
when
can I say
you're
one
when
more
you're
thing
okay.
just to add on to that? But
Yeah.
let's just say oh, we come to the conclusion after, like, oh, we saw that about each other, but the real reality again is we come to a place of, oh, we're not meant to be that. We're incompatible here. And I'm not
Uh-huh.
willing to budge and you're not willing to budge. But then even that separation would be amicable.
Mm.
It wouldn't
Mhm.
be as painful in a way where it's like energy towards you or you towards me.
Mhm.
It's like separating with peace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. What were you gonna say?
Oh, no, just to repeat the conclusion of that is um when there is understanding of your opposite part, then and you can see also the positive in that, that's what breaks you out of just your own thing.
Yeah.
So when you're in a very like polarized place, it's because you haven't yet heard enough from the other part and you haven't let the other part hear from you too,
Mhm. Mhm.
to like understand how it is that you got here to come to this conclusion about your worldview and from the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah. It's like the yin
Mhm.
and yang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. And we gotta let go sometimes the willingness to be vulnerable to see, wait, it's not all negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, so we were gonna do that example, right? The one that just experienced only taking care of the self, and the
Yeah.
one that experienced only taking care of other people first with no self.
Yeah.
So how do they end up subconsciously becoming the opposite that they do not want to become.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it? Should we take on opposite part? Not doing integration, but just
Okay.
from
I
that
don't think we're
perspective.
not doing integration right now,
No, no,
but just
no, no.
explaining the
Just that
consciousness.
perspective. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Which
Yeah.
part do you want to just kind of take on the perspective of talking through?
I'll do the no self.
Okay, and taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And I will be just the self perspective.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so then for me, on this end of just only the self, I end up becoming like you subconsciously, which is like, at first, it's like the negative side to you is, oh my God, she has no self, right? Like you have no self. You're always there for everybody else. That's not love. That's not love. But if you're totally in the perspective of the opposite, what would that feel like for you? Of like me judging you that way of like, um,
Oh, me always like being there for other people.
yeah. So basically this part is calling you out and being like, the only the self is calling you
Yeah.
out, like, dude, that's not love.
Yeah.
Like you
And
have
I'm saying,
no self.
I'm
Yeah.
like, this is how I live. This is how I breathe. This is
Yeah.
how I have connections to anyone. This is, if I don't do this,
Mhm.
I'll have nothing.
Why is
This is my only way to get something is if I
oh
give myself.
cater towards others?
Yeah. If I
Oh,
don't do this,
yeah.
then there's nothing. I'm nothing.
Okay. And
I'm
then,
only something because I do this.
oh, okay. Then for me, so you only become something if you're there for others.
Mhm.
And then for me, it's like feeling like myself is going to be taken away if I help others, if I'm there for others. Like no one's going to be there for me. So I should
Mhm.
do this all by myself. I'm going to do this for me. I have no space because I have so much that I need and want to give to myself because I can't trust anyone to give it to me.
Mm.
So I become like not thinking about other people, but just me and just me and just me.
I just think you're so dangerous and selfish,
Yeah.
and you are being in behavior that's gonna end up you having nobody. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm scared of myself. So
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah. So if
you're
we're
like,
like a married couple right here,
yeah, you're dangerous behavior.
yeah. So then for me, it would be like, um, I would get defensive because
Mhm.
you're calling out the negativity in me, and I'm calling out the negativity in you
Mhm.
because you're triggering me. Your ways are triggering me,
Mhm. Mhm.
and my
Yeah.
ways are triggering you. And
Yeah.
then, um, so then I'm also holding on to this more because the fear is, um, I don't want to end up like you. If I see the goodness about your quality of how you do things, the positivity of that, which I can't possibly see because I
Mhm.
see you have no self clearly,
Mhm.
then my fear is if I end up seeing the positivity of you is, oh my God, I'm going to be like you and have no self for me.
Mhm.
So then I'm like, whoa, I'm going to further like your kind of way, like even more.
Mhm.
But I feel like you would do this opposite of me too, right?
Yeah. But I feel like you benefit from me
Uh-huh.
giving to you,
Uh-huh.
even if I give to you and I'm not giving, don't have a self.
Wait, say that one more time.
So if we're like in a dynamic together,
Uh-huh.
you are okay getting from me and not giving anything back.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think because I give to you even to the sacrifice as myself,
Yeah.
that like I hate that you don't do the same for me and
Yeah.
you just give to yourself.
Yeah. And I don't see that as wrong because from this perspective, it's like, oh, I deserve it. And I see that you see that. And of course, yeah, I deserve it. And for me, it's like, well, I wouldn't do it if I don't want to. So you doing it for me is from the perspective of, oh, you're doing it because you want to.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I would be like, why are you forcing yourself to do it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 So basically my blind spot is I am actually afraid of you because
Mhm.
uh you're what I you are what I'm not letting myself do
Yeah.
for me.
Oh, so this is okay. So whether it's a married couple, a roommate situation, or friends, or
Yeah.
dating, or whatever, any type
Yeah.
of connection,
Mhm.
in this scenario, let's say, yeah, we're living together like this. In the beginning, we don't really say that about each other because you're
Mhm.
just wanting to give. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I love receiving.
Yeah.
So you don't see the negativity at first of this dynamic because it
Mhm.
works on both ends, right? But think about living that all day, every day. Yeah. And somehow it doesn't end up working because how would you feel on your end?
Mhm.
As always the giver to somebody else, but no self because it doesn't get returned because I'm all about the self.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It I absolutely need to integrate you.
Yeah, but before you go there, how, like, what kind of like emotional state would you be in being in your state of giving, giving, giving? And I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
replenishing and I'm just all about the
I'm
self and not
curious.
giving. Yeah. But at first you can't see that, right? It's just the
Yeah.
joy of giving
Uh-huh.
in the
Uh-huh.
connection.
Uh-huh.
And then let's say 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years roll by, that energy of always giving will get tired
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, I'm feeling, because I'm always receiving, right, from you. So it's like, oh, I'm always happy. I feel replenished. I feel good and I'm all happy. But for some reason, you're giving, you're happy about giving, but somewhere you realize, wait, how come I don't feel fulfilled or something?
Mhm.
Like not fully satisfied.
Mhm. Yep.
So it's like the more pain you experience on that one side of perspective will get you. And me too, because you'll start voicing it out a little bit. And I would get defensive and I will voice your negative parts out and you would get defensive.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then you would say, okay, what are your wants and needs? And it's like your wants and needs would be like, I want you to think about me. I want you
Mhm.
to be in tune and give me like I give you.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
then, yeah. But then what triggers is myself would get triggered subconsciously
Mhm.
because it goes back to that fear. If I give to her, I could be
Yeah.
losing my sense of self.
Yeah.
So that's the part in the relationship where like seeing and going deeper
Mhm.
of wanting to see the positivity on both ends can come
Mhm.
together. Um, to know that, oh, you can experience safety on both ends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. On one side, your perspective is you don't want to give to me because you feel like you would lose your sense of self.
Hmm.
That's your fear.
Hmm.
And for me, um, my
To receive for you.
to res my resistance to receiving you is also like about I would lose,
Yourself.
I would,
No?
well, I already lost myself, but I feel like it's like I would lose. I'm also scared of losing something. If,
Yeah, because you said that in the beginning, right? Of,
yeah,
oh, if I give, I am something.
yeah, yeah. If I
Yeah.
give, I'm something. If I don't give, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
So, so
So
you're
your
also,
fear would be nothing.
yeah, I'm nothing then.
Yeah. Because I can't produce to prove to myself that I am something
Hmm.
if you're just receiving.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So then it's basically integrating to say, oh, I am you. You are me. There's both good qualities in both, and the negative side of just taking on one side of the perspective. Yeah. Oh, but then so how does that opposite end up? Oh, we forgot to talk about that. How does the opposite end up becoming each other though, subconsciously? Oh,
Mhm.
because I'm gonna utilize your perspective. I don't know why I'm
Mhm.
seeing it better. Um,
Mhm.
but the part that always gives, with the no self, it just does that. In the beginning, it's jolly, like, oh yeah, I'm really happy to do it. It's not wrong, right? It's because giving to others is giving to you too, if you look at it from that perspective. So yeah, it's a good thing. And then after a while, like, wait, I'm not feeling satisfied. Something's missing. I don't feel fulfilled. How come I'm not feeling happy? That energy subconsciously behind your back gets resentful now when you're giving. It's like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm always giving and I don't receive anything back.
Mhm.
And start seeing the
Not enough with
negativity.
what I'm giving. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so it becomes the opposite by now that part that always gives, it does it to invest. I'm going to give, hoping that I'm going to receive it because I gave to you so good that you
Mhm.
must want to return it to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So it ends up being a subconscious selfish motive. Oh no, I'm doing this so that I can receive something from you.
Oh, but you know what?
Huh.
I see another part.
Mhm.
Now, the part that's not fulfilled
Yeah.
is like, I don't want to give this.
Oh
So now
yeah.
you're in a
Oh yeah.
contradiction. You're
Uh-huh.
in a contradiction. You're like, no, I'm tapped out. I don't want to give it. But then the part of you that's like, no, but this is the only way we can be something or have this connection.
Mhm.
So then that part bulldozes over the part that's like, I don't want to give this.
Mhm.
And then,
You're right.
yeah. So then you're bulldozing and then you're making that part that's not fulfilled wrong.
And you could
But
flip totally to the opposite
yeah,
end, right?
but it wants to. Now it's like secret wish is to, if secret wish is to be just really selfish or
Mhm.
just selfish, say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is the opposite side. And
Yeah.
then it sees that on the outside with someone being selfish,
Mhm.
saying no. And then that's what creates the, you're going to have feelings about that person.
Yeah.
You're going to hate them,
Mhm.
feel envious of them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You either can flip flop back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
or totally flip to the opposite end,
Mm-hmm.
or um stay on that side that you began with, but
Yeah.
subconsciously manifested in your blind spot
Yeah. Okay, so
in a
now going over
manipulative way. Yeah.
the opposite side. How
Mhm.
is the opposite side
Yourself.
the
Mhm.
selfish one? Just living for the
Uh-huh.
self.
Uh-huh.
How is that now integrating?
Become
Become, how does it become
the opposite.
the selfless one? Yeah.
Oh, oh. Um, so like beginning of the connection is like, oh great, I'm receiving all of this. I deserve this, has no problem.
Mhm.
But in the end, that person is only a match to the giver, ironically. Like, oh, he's giving, 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 giving. But at some point, like, it's going to recognize, like, wait, like, or even manifest, like, nobody giving to that part, nobody giving to me. If it's only the self, like,
Oh, right. All it's like receiving is gonna dry up.
yeah,
It feels lonely, maybe. It doesn't have connection.
yeah.
It feels lonely.
Well, let's utilize, okay, let's say I'm living with you and we're roommates and yeah, or yeah. And so you got to that point, it's like, what the fuck? I'm always giving to her now. And she's never given me back.
Mhm.
So I sense you kind of like not doing that.
Yeah.
Then for me, it's like, why do I keep losing people in my life? Why do I
Oh,
keep losing people
oh,
in my life?
you're gonna keep losing people. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the shadow. Uh-huh.
Yeah. It, and you basically just become the self, lonely, just the self. Because there's
Mhm.
nobody around that wants to be around you because everyone would have to give to you, but you
Mhm.
don't to them. So,
Mhm. Eventually it would dry up.
yeah. And so it becomes the opposite subconsciously. Wait, how does that happen? Yeah. So then and if it becomes painful enough, it's like, oh, yeah, you have no choice but want the connection from others. And it's like, okay, I'll give,
Oh,
I'll give. But then the way they give is from still that negative perspective, whether it's conscious or subconscious, because the fear is still there of, dude, if I give to others, I'm going to lose myself somehow at some point.
uh-huh.
Like it
Uh-huh.
doesn't like the idea of giving to others because that
Mhm.
feels like no self
Yeah.
because it
And
needs to receive for the self.
when now you start to just only want to um you're so afraid of like losing yourself to other people,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
you're not able to.
It's like a transaction to some degree too, subconsciously.
Yeah. And I feel like then it creates the same belief that the opposite side held, which is that I'm nothing. See,
Yeah.
people keep
Hmm.
leaving me, and it's because
Hmm.
I'm nothing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
It's going to take you to the same core pain
Uh-huh.
of the opposite side. I'm nothing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Mhm.
It will.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty powerful. And then somehow, but then at times you could also be forced to now be in the opposite
Mhm.
because your ways is not working anymore and it doesn't like it, but it feels like it has to now. So it's not coming from a space of wanting to, it's coming from a space of having to.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's hard to, yeah. Yeah. So that much amount of pain, I guess, would be needed for both ends to like, oh, now do you want to see the positive and negative of both ends? And I can see and understand why you would need sometimes a person, every person, in wherever they are in their life, in any situation or circumstance. Like in some scenarios, yeah, we're basically asking to see that amount of pain to really get this aha of recognizing that everything has positives and negatives. But we were so conditioned to think that this is right and this is wrong and really
Mhm.
split that up. But it's like, no, they're both good and they're both bad. You just got to be aware of which is the best for you in that moment of utilizing which one to be the highest and best interest for yourself and other. So in this case, with the self, with only the self and no self is like integrating to be on the same page, no longer enemies. And whichever scenario happens, it's like, okay, is it the best for me and the other person together? Is it this tool that's going to be better to utilize or this? Yeah. Because in life, oh, and I guess this is, yeah, the dangers of the one-sided perspective, but even like now it's like, is it really dangerous? If you are aware of all of this and you encounter someone on the one-sided perspective, if you're not triggered, then yeah, you've already taken care of that. You know, you're not bothered by that person. You just become aware like, oh, that person is for some good reason is needing to be on that one-sided perspective now. But then let's say another one-sided perspective comes along in a different, like with a different belief that actually does trigger you. Then that's like, okay, then let it's time to be aware of, like, integrate it, to see the positive of that and the negative of each other. So the positivity of the one-sided perspective is the moment to unite, to see the positive and the negative of both. So I guess that's the positivity of the one-sided perspective. Yeah. Anything you want to add on to that?
No, I feel like that, yeah, it's just requiring to understand this, it's really have to, there has to be like some being able to be fluid. I think you have to keep yourself fluid and not fixed. That's
Yeah.
the word.
Yeah. Like in the beginning, it's like, what? All of this concept might feel confusing or chaotic or a little too complicated. But the more you work through the steps of wanting to see the positive and the negative of both polarities, and the easier it gets, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And catching yourself.
Yeah, it's
And I
easier.
think, we're talking about, these are just very like elemental energetics, I feel, in so many relationships, or like every relationship you have in your life. We're talking about the energetics
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
how you can shift the energetics of it. This is something I feel universal in every dynamic.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. I
We're
totally
not talking
agree.
about something esoteric. This is very, it's a,
Logical, mental, emotional. Yeah,
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 thing that you'll witness in every interaction, probably.
yeah, yeah. And I
So,
do remember you saying this, which I want to bring up after you said that, because I think it's so valuable what you said earlier. I don't know, but I want to bring it back a bit, bring it back up again. Was you said, um, like when you and your boyfriend got into an argument, it was about that one thing, right? But when you both saw each other's positivity and negativity, you saw that that one thing you guys had an argument about wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. Like you said, it was all about the energy of that, of
underneath
like
the,
feeling powerless if I don't hold on to this perspective.
yeah.
Yeah, on both ends. So it wasn't really about that subject the argument was about. It was completely the same on both ends when you really look deeper. Yeah. Oh yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the universe always gives you, or I see more and more how I'll be on one side of things, and then very short time after I experience being on the opposite side, I'm like, oh, now I really understand how it feels to be on the other side. And
Yeah.
it helps my other parts adjust to that new awareness of
Mhm.
feeling and empathizing now, because I feel it as my own lived experience too.
Yeah. And don't you become so grateful for Max, and Max becomes so grateful for you of showing that to each other.
Yeah.
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 And now
Of
feel
of
safer.
like owning my part. Like, oh, yesterday I was really this side, and this today
Mhm.
I really feel the other side of how you must have felt with me yesterday, because now I'm feeling what you felt yesterday in another
circumstance somewhere else.
situation. Yeah. And so just watching and witnessing your life kind of keep unfolding that way with just de-rigidifying your stance, knowing that, just giving that space.
Yeah. It's really beautiful.
So
Okay.
well,
This was a good conversation.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. Alrighty.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.